Liberty, welcome. And this is part two of this two-part video series on do accounting firms have layoffs? And this is really focusing on how to make yourself the best accounting firm employee and hopefully being the last one off of the ship. So just a few things to get started. The information and opinions in this presentation are those of myself and not my employers or affiliated organizations, including but not limited to Irvine Valley College and the South Orange County Community College District. The presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute any legal or accounting advice whatsoever. This presentation is copyright myself 2023 by Bennett Tchaikovsky. All rights are reserved. Any distribution without my prior permission is strictly prohibited. So now that we have that out of the way, we really, in part one, we went kind of through and talked a little bit about, how do layoffs work? Do they happen? And the answer is sure. Because if there's not clients to hire us and to pay us for services, we can't stay around as an employee because we live on our clients. So now that we kind of have this, if I am working at a firm, what are kind of the steps that I can kind of go through and do? It's not necessarily to avoid being laid off, but there's kind of something, some from different things we can kind of do to kind of help ourselves through this process, right? So if there is a firm layoff, there is nothing we can really do about it. It's if clients are gone and there's firms cannot keep people on without having business come in the door. If they do, it gets very, very expensive. And, but there are different steps we can take, right? And just remember things like Arthur Andersen, where the SEC pretty much shut them down. There's really nothing you can do if it's something like that. But in terms of how do we kind of, just some different things we can do to get ourselves through these different times. So one thing I want to say is I'm very proud of one of my former students. I had a series of calls with my former students and where they're working right now. And he was laid off from a firm. This is right around COVID. That firm really regretted it later. But he used that time to go through and pass the CPA exam. Becoming a CPA is going to give you empowerment that you have no idea about. And remember, if you're in California, I've made a ton of videos about this, but again, knowing what your state's requirements are and getting that license is absolutely critical. Why? Because if you are laid off, right, what's gonna happen is you're going to be able to go turn around and get a job somewhere else, hopefully relatively quickly. So again, being a CPA is going to put you more in the driver's seat and not necessarily at the expense of the employer. One of the things about, and I put up here the consulting mindset, I've written about this in the past. I think oftentimes to kind of help you kind of get through the job, and if you're like around a firm which is really kind of unpleasant, obviously you don't want to stay there forever, but like having the consulting mindset really means that you're going into the office, you're doing your job, and you're going home. This is not about quiet quitting, but it's about focusing on your work, focusing on those types of things and going home. Now, most firms do not want you to have this type of mindset just because it's, they want you to be integrated with the office. They want you to be, really happy-go-lucky or whatever else may have you. But, if you are getting your work done, and this is really what this slide is about, one of the things that firms will do is they're going to run what I used to call productivity reports. What's a productivity report? Well, if I'm given 100-hour budget, which is, almost 3 or 4 weeks for a particular job, and this is my very first job, if I come in at 150 hours, meaning 50 hours over budget, and if it was just kind of chalked up to learning time, and if it's my first engagement, that may be okay. But if I go to my second job, has a 50-hour budget, I come in at 80 hours over budget, and there's really no reason why I went over, right? Again, if we discover something going on at the company, you absolutely want to go through and investigate it. So, but if we go over budget, and by the way, if you are given a budget and it's unrealistic and you get into the work and you're starting to do that job and that budget is unrealistic, talk to the manager and explain, hey, this is just not possible. And get that kind of just so, and the reason why you want to do that is because if the budget's unrealistic, if you blow the budget for the engagement, then, at least you'll have had that conversation with the manager or whoever else set up the budget. And by the way, too, if you're going over budget and it's the client's fault, and if you don't communicate, well, my client didn't give me the information and you didn't tell that to the manager so the manager could talk to the client, that's probably going to be on you. So again, the key thing, excuse me, here is absolute communication. So staying productive, what does that mean? It means that you're given every engagement should have a budget. If not, it might just be pure time going through, but every engagement should have a budget, and you should be trying to basically meet or beat that budget if possible. When you're first starting out in public accounting, that can be difficult, but again, just kind of think about that. The other thing is I had a student who is she was recently let go from a firm. And part of the reason why is she did not want to work overtime. The firm was all working overtime during a period of time. She didn't think that she had to go through and do that. That student was gone after about 9 months. So if you are going to be going through and you're not doing, that's not really a layoff as much as it is more of a performance. But if you're not going into the office and doing what you're supposed to be doing, when they're doing, they have to eliminate staff, that could be you. So being productive, being on budget, if the budgets are realistic, communicating with the managers and the seniors and the partners about the budget. And if it's realistic, if the client's not prepared, that's okay. Just tell the people above you, hey, I don't have the right stuff. So over here, other thing too is how can we really avoid being laid off? Well, if we're going through and doing our homework prior to starting a job, which means if I'm auditing a publicly traded company, I'm going through all their annual filings, their previous quarterly filings, their past filings. I'm looking at the public filing, and this is on sec.gov. If I'm going through and, looking at the competitors, I'm really trying to learn the business. And if I can somehow then walk in, and by the way, if it's for tax, looking at the prior tax returns, trying to figure out how do I save my clients money. From an audit side, it's like, well, is there something that the client could be doing better? Can I add value as a professional to this engagement? Remember that at some point in public accounting, you will start going through and specializing. The reason why you start specializing in certain areas means that you're going to see more and more of the same types of transactions, and therefore you're going to be able to go through and give better advice. Just kind of like myself, I've been spending a lot of time, at least this past week, working with students and talking with accounting firms about recruiting. It's paid a very high compliment by one of the recruiters. Say, wait a second, do you do this for a living? And the answer is no, I'm just getting myself up to speed because I've just been spending so much time with recruiting that I'm learning about how this whole thing works. So again, it's about what are you kind of going through and doing to make that client impact? How are you trying to basically provide that very best customer service? So will that prevent you from being laid off? No, but if there are other people around you that are not doing those things and you're being productive, you're being billable, you're going to be a hard person to replace. So let's take a look over here. Should I always be looking for other opportunities? Now, I'm going to have Deanna Gutman on. We're going to do a YouTube video here in a few, hopefully within the next few weeks. I'll have an interview and we'll kind of get into this. But I would always be looking. And it's not, the first thing you need to do You need to become a licensed CPA. It's your first objective when you get into public accounting. Get the license, right? Have that out of the way. Then the real question becomes, should I be leaving public accounting? And this is why don't just listen to me. Don't listen to the partner who'll say you should never leave, because I want you to be on these engagements, because this is going to be your third year on the engagement. You know the client so well that boy, oh boy, you're not going to break any budgets because you know how this business operates. That's in the best interest of the partner. That's not necessarily going to be the best interest for you. But again, everybody has a different time that you're leaving public accounting. There's no set time frame, but a lot of people leave after 2 years, after a year, after 3 years, 4 years. And, you know, at some point in time, if you're in, say, tax and you're working for an accounting firm, it's going to be harder to move out to like private industry and get the kind of the same level of compensation. It just kind of depends on you might have to go in-house where they have a lot of tax stuff going on. That could be out something that works well. But again, if you're in tax, you're generally going to be staying at an accounting firm. Maybe if you're in tax, right, maybe the thing to do is to say, well, it doesn't look like I'm going to make partner here because it's going to take me 9 years to do it. Maybe I should be moving to a smaller accounting firm and getting that kind of experience and start up a client base and ultimately try to become partner. The way you reach partner at these firms, it can take a very long time. It's extremely political. It's really going to be about, it's not a matter of service time. It's about, can you get clients? And getting clients, marketing, helping the firm really expand. That's what's so important to go through and do. Most important thing, become a CPA. And then what point should you leave? It's just going to really depend upon you. Now, one thing I will say, do not leave out of spite or anger. Okay. And I've made this mistake many of times. I left because I have to get out. That's okay. But you really want to kind of be thoughtful about it, because we will make mistakes in our careers. But if we can kind of try to go through and think through the different pathways and not just jump for the sake of jumping. This is why it's so great that I'm now an instructor of accounting. I've been at my current job for the last 10 years. I absolutely love it. Wow. When I was working in private industry and doing the jumping, I jumped a lot. And one of the jumps I did was I was given a very small raise, and I said, I can go make money elsewhere. Sure enough, I did, but that actually turned out to be kind of a big mistake. So don't just jump basically for the money. It has to basically make sense in terms of what you're trying to go through and do. It's not just about money. It has to be the right situation in terms of why you're going through and leaving. Also, too, when you do decide to leave, you have to go through and make sure that you are doing your due diligence on the company you're moving to. Glassdoor. I've made a lot of other videos if you want to see them, or just leave a comment below and I can provide you the links, but they are on my channel. So again, I would say you should always be looking for other opportunities, but really just when you're doing something, do it well, show pride in your work, do a great job, and you'll be surprised what happens in terms of things coming to you. If you're not very enthusiastic about your job, if you're just the sloth at the DMV in Zootopia and just really not enjoying it, that's not going to leave a really good impression, because if you're going out and interviewing, you don't have like the right kind of attitude, that's probably going to be a problem in terms of finding the right next job. Because if you're walking into an employer and it's like, oh my God, I just had the worst experience. If you start complaining about your current job to your new employer, just think about it from, like a dating perspective. If you have a girlfriend and she's just complaining about her exes, or if you have, whatever, your significant, someone you're dating, and they say these things, and it's like, whoa, this is kind of not good. And it's the same real way like employment. They really want to focus on, when you're interviewing with an employer, They really want to say, okay, I'm bringing this person into my organization. How are they going to fit? Are they positive? Are they going to make a positive impact on my culture? And are they going to go through and help my organization grow? Or if I bring in this person, are they going to be, negative, just a negative person? And is this going to be good for my organization? So remember that as you're going out there and looking, and just take your time, right? It's not, you want to find the right opportunity to kind of go to next. So I was talking a little bit about this, but the way you're going to make the most money in public accounting possibly might be by starting your own accounting firm, right? This is actually a lot more simple than it sounds, but it's also very difficult to form. To become a licensed accountancy corporation, it's actually not too hard to do. You will need to go through and do things like get office space. You have to get licensed. If I was starting my own firm, I would only be doing bookkeeping work, tax work, and that would maybe consulting. The reason why I would not do auditing or compilations or reviews is those get, in terms of malpractice, can get very expensive. There's a lot less liability in terms of tax just because of what you're representing to the IRS or to the state agencies. Now, in terms of if you decide to go open your own accounting firm, you're going to have to go through and generate business. And this is basically going to be kind of difficult to do. But, once you generate that business, and once, like, if you're in tax, those clients are going to stay with you because you're saving them money. As an auditor, you're providing a service of giving someone audited financial statements. You're looked at in a very much of a different light because it's like you have to get an audit done. With tax, obviously, you need to file your returns, but the tax partner is really there to say, okay, are you structuring your transaction to save money under the tax code? So not evading taxation, but avoiding taxation. And, to become a partner at a public accounting firm. And the one thing I'll say about this is you have to be, I once had a friend of mine who is now a partner at a different accounting firm. And we would go out to lunch, great person. And that person would tell me that, hey, the firm is kind of, and I told the person, I said, hey, look, and I could kind of see it that they were just really leading them on. They were making up stories like, oh, we can't do it this year. I said, you're going to need to leave. What are you talking about? You're going to need to go. And that person eventually, because he had done such a great job of building. I have never seen anybody build such great client relationships, because this person was just so focused on helping his clients save money. That's what he was all about. He wanted to help his clients save money. And he just did an amazing job. And what ended up happening was his current firm was just dilly-dallying around. There was all these things with the partners. And, when you leave a firm as a manager, you have to be really careful about how you do it, because there can be some residual legal liability in terms of how they're contacted or whatever else. But what ended up happening was about 80 to 90% of the clients left with him because he had saved those clients so much money. We're following this person. So the identity did not become with the firm he was with, it became with him. And so all these clients left with him. The ones who stayed behind, I don't think he really wanted. And so he went to a new firm. He was started out as, I think it was it was an upper level position. And within a year, he was buying into the partnership. And he's done, I can only imagine how well he's done. But that goes back to really, like, when you're working in public accounting, at some point in time, you're going to essentially, and you're never going to stop learning. But once you've kind of seen enough types of different transactions, right, you're then going to kind of say, like, well, I know how to do everything technically. Now I need to go out and get business. And that's a very, very challenging thing to do, because you've got to be going out to lunches. You have to be putting yourself out there. It takes a lot of time, because if you're going to become a partner in a firm, And there was a partner that I spoke with at a larger accounting firm, and he said, Bennett, I had this first year associate said, when do I become partner? Almost asking like, well, I want to become partner next year. And he got really mad at that question because he said, how could this person say this? I was an associate for 10 years before I became a partner at an accounting firm. But the reality of it is, you know, I told him, you're really asking the wrong question. You're really telling him the wrong answer. What you should have told this person who came into your office is like, well, if you bring me $2 to $3 million of a book of business, then you'll basically make partner. He laughed. And it's like, it's the right answer. So if you're going to become a partner in an accounting firm, by the way, this takes a very long period of time, especially at the larger firms. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But at the end of the day, it's really about, can you go out and generate that business, right? Can you generate business for your firm? That's really what is probably the most critical component of this. Do you have a very loyal client base? Will they be staying with you? Are you really doing that great service basically to those clients? So if you are going to go through and start your own accounting firm, is it doable? Sure. Does it take time? Yes. Do we want to be careful about the types of services or products we offer? And the answer to that is yes. Even if you decide to go start your own accounting firm, and if at first you're kind of worried about, well, most of my experience was in audit, then maybe I should start out by offering bookkeeping services. Believe it or not, you can do pretty good with that, bookkeeping consulting, right? And then you could say, well, I might try doing a couple different tax returns, and it's something you can basically, pick up because you are a CPA. And this is what's really important. You are a CPA. And one of my favorite lines from the film Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I think one of the character asks Indiana Jones, and he turns around and he says, I don't know, I'm making this up as I go. And that's really what's happening, right? Because you can be at a job if you're laid off, but if you're a CPA, you'll figure something out, right? You've taken a really difficult exam, you've taken a lot of accounting classes, but you're going to figure it out. And, there's a lot of different things you can do with your license. You'd be very surprised. And this is actually something that's really important. And it's what this comes down to is whenever I talk to people, and this is either at not-for-profits or at any kind of level of a company, why should I hire a CPA? It's very simple. And this is why the license is so valuable. Is that, well, if you hire someone as a CPA to do an accounting job and they're an actively licensed CPA, if they do something evil, right, if they steal or do anything else, and by the way, if you look at most of the fraud, that's that type of accounting fraud, it's usually non-accountants who are doing the shenanigans. It's not CPAs. Like, look at the film All the Queen's Horses, City of Dixon. Yeah, that was a non-CPA. So when you have this kind of situation, a CPA will not only be fired, right, from their job, but they will also lose their CPA license. And trust me, after you get your CPA license, you never, ever want to lose it. And remember, if you're as a CPA, you have a skill set that's solving problems. You can do this, right? So again, if you are a licensed CPA, you can reinvent yourself, right? And many of us will be going through and doing that in our careers. You can reinvent yourself and you can do it. So if you are laid off, right? By the way, if you ever want to, if you do get laid off and you want to talk, I am here. I do have ways you can kind of go through and contact me, and I'll just kind of show you this really quickly. But if you type in Bennett Tchaikovsky, Irvine Valley College, you come over here to my faculty website, and right over here, if you go to my virtual office hours can be found here. And, this is generally reserved for my students, but this is a way you can basically go through and contact me. And this is for the fall 2023 semester via this Zoom link. If you come in, just announce myself. It's like, hey, dude, I was watching your YouTube channel. I got some questions for you. It's like, sure, like no problem. If I don't have like students that are in there, I'm more than happy to kind of go through and help you. So let's just kind of go back again and just kind of talk a little bit about these other things. Remember, you're an at-will employee. We can be hired and fired at a moment's notice. That means you can leave whenever you want. By the way, the firm will not die. The firm will continue to go on. They will find other people to go through and do the work. You're not Michael Jordan, right? I'm sorry. You're not, you're not, I would say Mike Trout, but he's injured right now. You're not, I don't want to say you're special, but it's, when you're working at these firms, it's like you're doing a job. You be hired and fired at a moment's notice. Okay. And I'll stay away from that one. And just again, they'll be fine. Right. And just remember to give your employer 2 weeks. I think it's always a kind way to kind of go through and do that. And just to kind of end things there. So I want to thank you for being here. I'm really excited this past week. Tomorrow is going to be my last 2 meetings with firms, which will make it a total of 10 in 8 days. I've had some great discussions with students, my former students who are now at some of these firms. And it's been a fantastic journey. And I really want to thank my student who asked the question is, do accounting firms do layoffs? I hope you found this helpful. I do plan on having Deanna Gutman come on to the channel. She is a recruiter at the Century Group, and I'll just give a shout out to her really quickly. Just give me a moment. So this is Deanna. I've known her for a very, very long time. She is awesome. And I'm going to hopefully have her on the channel pretty soon. She went to UC Santa Barbara, which Gaucho. Yeah, there we go. I am going to bring her on and have a discussion with her, really to kind of flesh out this slide like a little bit more in terms of like when should you be leaving. She'll obviously will have a perspective, but I think it'll be a good perspective to go through and have. So I want to thank you for being here with me today. If there are any other videos that you would like to see, please feel free to leave a comment. And I look forward to seeing you on future videos. Have a great day.